Lily stood frozen in the middle of the cafe, her eyes never leaving the small note tucked between the check and the check from Barron Trump. Each word on it felt like a beam of light piercing into her life, making her heart tighten. She couldn't believe her eyes, a simple message, yet filled with care from someone she never expected to notice her. How could someone who lived in such luxury like Barron Trump understand the struggles she faced? This story wasn't just about a check and money, but about empathy and kindness. A small act can change a life. Right now, let's listen to the story to understand the power of kindness and how it can ignite hope in life. Lily wiped down the last table in the corner of the cafe, the strong scent of espresso blending with the sweet taste of freshly baked croissants. The rustic cafe was unusually quiet today, each moment stretching out unwittingly. The people around her seemed lost in their own worlds, soft whispers and the clinking of cups creating strange sounds in the stillness. 7 hours had passed, but time seemed to stand still as every step Lily took carried the weight of exhaustion deep into her muscles. She checked the watch on her wrist. Only 1 more hour to go until her shift ended. The rent was due, but she still didn't have enough to pay, and the phone bill was still waiting to be settled. The tips today were practically nothing, just cold coins left behind by customers who didn't spare a second glance at her. Lily sighed, tying her hair back as she tried to shake off the worries crowding her mind. Mr. James, her manager, glanced at her from afar with an understanding look, but it was more of a silent reminder to keep working without pause. She gave a tired smile, then went back to her work as if each step was already scripted. Suddenly, the doorbell of the cafe rang, startling her. A man walked in, tall and lean, dressed casually but exuding a natural elegance. 2 men followed behind him, silent, observing every corner of the cafe. The suddenness of it all enveloped Lily, as if a fresh breeze had entered the familiar space. The rustic cafe was supposed to be a quiet place, not a spot for celebrities or those with bodyguards. Lily paused for a moment, her gaze resting on the man before her, and in that instant, she recognized him, Barron Trump. She couldn't believe her eyes. How could someone so famous be here, in this simple space? Though her heart raced, Lily quickly regained her composure. She was used to keeping a calm exterior, even when her inner world was on fire. "Hello? What can I get you?" she spoke gently, a small smile on her lips. Barron looked at her, not with the arrogance she had imagined, but with a gaze that was deep, almost understanding. "A cappuccino, and if possible, a croissant," he said, his voice low, full of sincerity. "Of course," Lily smiled, quickly jotting the order down. "Anything else?" He shook his head gently, his gaze still holding a patience that remained unwavering. "No need for anything else. Thank you," he said. Lily turned back to the counter, her hands still gripping the notebook. But inside her, there was a strange feeling, an indescribable sensation. Perhaps it was the peace she had never felt from a customer before. Lily stood by the coffee machine, her hands swiftly adjusting the buttons. But her mind was elsewhere, still fixated on a corner of the cafe. Today, everything seemed so different. An uneasy feeling twisted in her chest, as if something was about to happen, something she couldn't foresee. The sound of steam rising from the cappuccino machine came steadily, but to her eyes, it was just a faint noise, unable to overpower the distraction in her heart. "Why is this happening?" she thought, her mind racing with thoughts of the man sitting at the corner table. "Barron Trump. Of all the people I could meet today, it's him." She glanced over again, unable to take her eyes off him. Barron sat there, tall and composed. Yet there was an unspoken resolve about him. He didn't have a phone in hand, wasn't rushing to do anything. He simply watched the world outside the window, occasionally sipping from the cup she had served him. That strange feeling wouldn't let her go until, finally, when she brought the cappuccino and croissant to his table. She felt a part of her calm down. "Here is your order," she said gently, placing the items in front of him, her tone returning to the familiar professionalism. He looked up, his gaze soft as he met hers, offering a gentle smile. "Thank you," he said, his voice warm, yet carrying an affection that she couldn't explain. "You're welcome. If you need anything else, just let me know," she replied, not expecting much, but still maintaining a friendly, polite tone. Lily returned to the counter, but she couldn't shake the feeling of unease as she saw his gaze still following her. That feeling, as though he was paying attention to every step she took, made her feel a little flustered. She tried to regain her composure, but the sensation wouldn't go away easily. Time passed in a strangely quiet rhythm. She cleaned tables, did the small tasks expected of a server. In the stillness of the cafe, the soft background music flowing from the speakers felt like a gentle stream, but it couldn't disperse the heaviness in her heart. It was as if something was waiting, an event that would change everything, a change she couldn't foresee. Looking over again, Lily saw Barron leaning slightly over the table, pulling a pen from his jacket pocket, quickly writing something on his receipt. His movements were delicate, as if he didn't want to attract attention. Yet there was something odd about it. He folded the receipt carefully, placed it under the empty cup, then stood up, taking his coat and phone. Lily stood frozen, holding the tray, preparing to clear the table. But when she saw him walking past her, she could only say, "Thank you for stopping by." Her voice was soft, like an unspoken goodbye. He turned back to look at her once more, those gentle eyes seeming to linger, then smiled at her. "I wish you a good day," he said, his deep voice echoing softly in the quiet space of the cafe. Lily stood still, a strange feeling rising in her chest. The words he had just said seemed to echo in the air, etched deeply into her heart. She watched him leave through the door, until it closed, leaving no trace except for the sound of the bell ringing. She sighed deeply, wiped her eyes, and turned back to the table to clean up. The empty coffee cup, with the remaining foam marks, was like a trace of a quiet moment. But then, she saw the receipt, and her heart tightened. Carefully opening the paper, her hands trembled as she read the final line. Not because of the amount, but because of the words written on it. A large sum. But more importantly, the sincere message. "Your dedication and kindness have not gone unnoticed. My family has also gone through what you are experiencing. Believe me, brighter days are ahead." Lily felt a warm wave rise in her chest as silent tears streamed down her cheeks. This was the first time in many weeks, even months, that she truly felt seen. Understood, not through the indifferent eyes of the customers or the silence of the colleagues, but through the words Barron Trump left behind. Each written word was like a comforting gesture, a signal that even though the world could sometimes be indifferent, there were people who recognized her presence, her quiet sacrifice. And so, Lily's story, a story she thought no one would ever know, began to spread. A faint sound from the cafe door swung open, pulling her back to reality. She quickly wiped away her tears with the back of her hand and hurriedly slipped the note into her apron pocket as Mr. James, the cafe manager, approached. "Are you okay?" he asked, his eyes showing genuine concern. "What happened?" Lily took a deep breath, trying to control her emotions. I'm fine," she answered, her voice trembling slightly. "It's just a big tip." Mr. James looked up, his expression skeptical. "Big enough to make you cry?" Lily nodded, forcing her lips into a weak smile as she took out the neatly folded receipt and handed it to him. He glanced briefly at the amount on the receipt and couldn't help but let out a low whistle. "Unbelievable! Who left this? The table by the window. Near the entrance. Lily whispered, her voice barely audible. It was Barron Trump. Mr. James stared, his face puzzled. Barron Trump? Are you serious? Yes, Lily replied, pulling the note out of her pocket. But it's not just the money. She handed it over, carefully as if afraid the paper would crumble in her hands. Mr. James slowly took it and read the words. A subtle shift passed through his eyes, from the usual seriousness to a deep sympathy. Unbelievable, he whispered, handing the note back to Lily. It's truly indescribable. Yeah. I don't understand why either, Lily said. Her voice still choked as she carefully folded the note and held it tightly in her hands. I didn't do anything special. Mr. James looked at her for a long time, his eyes seeming to want to say something but then holding back. Finally, he spoke, his voice softer than ever. Sometimes, people just know. Lily. They can see everything. Even when you think you've hidden it all. You're here every day, working with dedication, never giving up. And sometimes, others notice that, even when you don't realize it. Lily swallowed hard, his words like a cool breeze soothing a deep wound in her heart. She had never realized how much she needed to hear them. The past few months, she had felt like someone drifting in the vast ocean, working tirelessly to cover her expenses while facing her mother's health challenges. But throughout it all, she had managed to keep her kindness intact, not letting the hardships strip away her dignity. And, in some strange moment, Barron Trump had seen that. As noon passed, an unusual buzz began to spread through the cafe. Her colleagues exchanged curious glances, whispering near the pastry counter and pointing to the corner of the cafe where Barron Trump sat. The rumors began to spread like wildfire, and within moments, Emma, one of the baristas, approached Lily with a face full of excitement. You served him, right? Emma asked, her voice full of admiration. What did he say to you? Is he handsome? Lily smiled, but the smile wasn't complete. Yeah, he's very charming. Oh my God! Are you serious? Emma exclaimed, her eyes wide open as if she couldn't believe what she had just heard. He must have driven you crazy! Lily didn't respond, just shook her head gently. She didn't want to share the note or the tip amount. It was too private, too sacred to her. It wasn't a story to boast about. Right now, that piece of paper, the words written on it, belonged only to her, and she didn't want it to be invaded by anyone's curiosity. As the chatter in the cafe continued, Lily returned to her work, cleaning tables and serving customers. But deep inside, she still felt something strange, a warmth spreading from the note. However, now she knew that her story had spread beyond the borders of the rustic cafe. It would be remembered, not because of the money, but because of the heartfelt words Barron Trump had left behind, words reminding her of kindness, resilience, and the recognition she truly deserved. Lily clutched the worn piece of paper, the words on it seeming to still carry the warmth from the writer. We used to live where you are. Stay strong. A good day is coming. Each word felt like encouragement, like a hope she had been searching for. She softly read it again, feeling each word as a comfort in this difficult moment. That note wasn't just an ordinary piece of paper. It was an invisible gift from Barron Trump, someone she had never met. But when he wrote, when he reached her heart with those words, everything seemed to make sense. Though many challenges lay ahead, Lily felt as if she had found a new source of strength. And then, in those dark moments, when the subway train rushed through the long tunnels of Union Station, she closed her eyes, letting herself believe that perhaps this life wouldn't always be so bleak, that there was a light somewhere waiting. The next day, the weak light from dawn filtered through the window of Lily's apartment. waking her in silence. Her phone suddenly vibrated. Lily picked it up. But when she saw the notifications, she couldn't understand. The messages felt like cuts to her soul. Are you the one in that story? You're becoming famous. Lily. How does everyone know about you? Her hands trembled as she saw a link attached to one of the messages. She clicked on it. And immediately the words on the new bulletin made her head spin. The headline read, Barron Trump shares his heart. Lily's act of kindness moves millions. Lily felt as if she were being overwhelmed by a wave of news crashing down on her. The small piece of paper she had tucked into her apron the night before had now become the highlight of a story everyone wanted to tell. Comments flooded in on the article. Barron Trump is such a big-hearted person. Lily's story touched my heart. If only everyone could act like this, the world would be a better place. Lily read these words with a feeling of both unfamiliarity and discomfort. She had never imagined that such a small gesture of hers would create such a big wave. It felt like she had been placed at the center of a story she hadn't prepared for. When Lily walked into the cafe that morning, the atmosphere was different. There were no more quick glances. No more the usual silence of customers. But instead, eyes fixed on her, full of curiosity. Her colleagues, Emma, Sophia, and Grace, all paused for a moment to look at her. Each seemed to want to say something but didn't dare. Finally, Emma broke the silence. You're looking different today, Lily. It must be because of that article. Emma laughed. But her smile seemed a bit unusual. A mix of pride and surprise. Don't say that, Emma. I'm just doing my job, Lily replied, trying to keep her voice steady. But she knew something was stirring inside her, making her uncomfortable. The cafe, the rustic cafe, had turned into a place of focused attention today. It felt like she was being watched from every angle. She stood behind the counter, but every gaze seemed to follow her, making her feel like there was no escape. At that moment, a man walked in. He was wearing a black coat and carrying a camera. Lily recognized him right away, a reporter from the New Bulletin. She wanted to leave immediately, but her legs felt like they were glued to the floor. He walked up to her, eyes never leaving her. Lily, right? He asked, his voice dry. Your story has caught the world's attention. We want to hear more about what happened. Lily looked at him, feeling like everything was happening too fast, with no time to prepare. I'm just an ordinary person, she replied, her voice a bit rushed. The story isn't just mine. The reporter didn't respond immediately. He just held his camera and looked at her, seemingly waiting for a bigger story, a deeper revelation. Lily looked at him, a sense of fear rising in her chest. In just a few hours, the calls, messages, and articles had changed Lily's life forever. A small gesture of hers had become a symbol for a bigger story, a message she never expected. The people in the cafe, the reporters outside, all seemed to focus on her as if she were the brightest star. But could she live with this? Could she handle this pressure without losing herself? In Lily's heart, that question remained unanswered, and only time could tell. When her shift ended, the atmosphere in the cafe seemed to freeze, heavy with the gaze of everyone around. Lily quietly left the counter, sneaking out the back door to avoid the reporters gathered outside. Her sneakers lightly touched the sidewalk, and she sighed, feeling as though she wanted to erase the invisible eyes still following her. The street seemed eerily quiet today, and the familiar roads suddenly felt unfamiliar, as if the world was shifting off its axis. Lily tightened her grip on her purse, where the note was, a surprising reminder of something she hadn't expected. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. A new message from Mr. James, her manager. Lily, they want you on TV tomorrow morning. Call me back. Lily stopped, her feet frozen on the sidewalk. On TV? Tell her story? No, she didn't want her face to be on the screen for millions of people. She was just a simple server, not a character in a TV show. But a small voice inside her whispered, maybe it's an opportunity to speak the truth. To show people that sometimes the simplest actions are the most important. Lily stared at the phone, then shoved it back into her purse. She couldn't make a decision right now. The answer would have to wait. When she got home, Lily saw her mother sitting in the old armchair, her eyes scanning the TV channels. A familiar voice echoed from the TV screen. There has been a meaningful gesture from Barron Trump left for server Lily, whose story is moving the hearts of millions across the country. Lily stopped right at the door, her eyes fixed on the screen. Her note appeared on it, accompanied by a large headline. A simple act. A small gesture of kindness is changing the way we see the world. Her mother looked up, coughed softly, and then looked at her with a gentle gaze. Is that you? Lily sighed and placed her bag on the table. Yes. Mom. It's me. Her mother's gaze softened, and she waved for Lily to sit beside her. You know, people need to hear stories like that. Kindness is what society is missing. I never wanted things to turn out like this, Lily whispered, wrapping her arms around herself. Everything is getting too big. Mom, I feel like I don't deserve all this attention. Her mother gently took her hand and squeezed it. Lily, sometimes beautiful things come to us unexpectedly. People see who you are, the values you live by and give every day. Someone saw you and reminded you that you are important. Lily couldn't hold back her emotions anymore. Tears fell down her face. But this time, she didn't try to stop them. Her mother's words were a comforting embrace. The note wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a confirmation of hope. It said that kindness, even in its smallest form, could make a big difference. And now, she was part of that story. That night, lying in bed, the dim light from her phone screen reflected on the ceiling. Lily's phone rang again. She didn't need to look, she knew what it was. Another call. Another question. More noise. But amid all that, the note remained quietly under her pillow. A reminder of someone who had seen her, someone she didn't know, but who made her feel her worth. For the first time, Lily no longer felt like an invisible shadow. The next day, Lily decided to do something bold. She called Mr. James, the cafe manager, her voice no longer uncertain as before but filled with confidence and determination. Tell the show tomorrow morning that I'll participate, Lily said, her voice soft but firm. Mr. James almost dropped the phone. Are you really going to do this? This is an extremely rare opportunity. Lily chuckled softly, feeling no fear in her heart anymore. Yes. But I don't want to talk about money or superficial things. I just want to share about that note. About kindness. That's all. The interview took place in a warm, well-lit space. Lily sat on the sofa, her hands gently clasped together. But her gaze was firm. In contrast, Mr. Daniel, the host, leaned forward, his eyes attentive and full of empathy. Hello? Lily. Over the past few days, your story has caught the attention of many people. A note and some money from Barron Trump, an incredibly surprising thing. How did you feel when you first read those words? Mr. Daniel asked, his voice soft, as if he wanted to understand Lily's feelings better. Lily looked at the camera, no longer feeling anxious but instead with a calm strength. She wasn't just speaking to Mr. Daniel, but to everyone watching her. To be honest, I was very surprised. Not because of the money or material value, but because of the words he wrote. I was going through a very difficult time, and those words were like a powerful encouragement I didn't expect. They pulled me out of the darkness I was sinking into. Mr. Daniel nodded, his gaze seemingly understanding every word Lily said. The note said, "I couldn't help but notice your efforts. My family has been through similar circumstances. Stay strong. Brighter days will come." What do you think these words are meant to convey? Lily lowered her head slightly, as if pondering each word she would say. She paused for a moment, then responded, her voice full of emotion. "I think he wanted to remind me that, no matter who we are, we all face challenges. But no one has to face them alone. A little kindness, no matter how small, can help someone rise." These words seem to remind me that, even in our darkest moments, we can find light. And sometimes, that light comes from people we don't expect. From small yet meaningful actions. The atmosphere in the studio grew strangely quiet. Everyone was silent, as if feeling the sincerity in every word from Lily. Mr. Daniel smiled gently, his eyes filled with warmth and understanding. "That's a beautiful message, Lily. If Barron is watching this show, is there anything you want to say to him?" Lily looked into the camera, her eyes shining but holding an indescribable emotion. "I just want to say thank you. Not for the money, but because he saw me, and helped me realize that I am not alone in this fight. He may never know the difference he made, but I will always cherish that." When the interview ended and the show aired, Lily didn't rush to check her phone or look at the sensational headlines. She chose to let everything pass naturally, like a gentle wave. The next day, she returned to the rustic cafe, where everything was the same. But she was not. Lily pulled her apron a little higher, feeling like she had just crossed another threshold. The cafe was still bustling, but there was something different in the air today. Customers smiled at her, not because they knew her story, but because of the change in her. She felt seen, not through curious gazes, but through a quiet respect. The note from Barron was still in her wallet, a precious item she kept as a reminder that would never fade. Sometimes, small actions, simple words, could bring immense power. A compliment, a pat on the back, or just letting someone know they are valued. Today, Lily wondered if she could do something similar for someone else. And she realized, sometimes the brightest days come from actions that don't require many words. We just need to know that when someone else gives kindness, it can change everything. Lily walked out of the cafe, her heart light but also full of thought. She felt as if everything was slowly settling back into place, even though not every difficulty could vanish immediately. But what made her feel different was the newfound belief in the power of small actions. A priceless gift she had received from a stranger, not out of pity, but from deep empathy. As the days passed, Barron's words still echoed in her mind, like a small flame keeping her warm on cold nights. The reminders of kindness, of resilience, of never giving up hope. She realized that it was those seemingly small moments that held immense power in each person's life. And we all have the potential to be a small light in this world, if only we know how to give compassion. Lily didn't know that, through her story, she had not only changed her own life but also became an inspiration for many others. The messages, the thank you letters from complete strangers, all showed her that a small act could create a big wave in the community. And sometimes, the true power of kindness doesn't lie in how much you get back, but in how much you give. And so, Lily's story was not just the story of a woman finding hope in difficult times. It became a reminder for all of us that no matter how challenging life may be, kindness is always something that can help us overcome. A light that illuminates the path, a ray of hope in dark moments. Because, in the end, brighter days will come, not from grand things, but from small, loving actions. And for Lily, she understood that life, though full of challenges, always offers opportunities for change. That was the great message she wanted to send to everyone. Sometimes, Just a small note, a kind action, can change someone's life, and this world, though vast, always needs hearts that know how to love. If you found this story inspiring and want to continue following more touching, meaningful, and hopeful stories, don't forget to hit the subscribe button now. Let's share real stories, profound messages, and emotional moments. Don't miss any video, because each story brings a valuable lesson. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you will continue to support the channel. Note: this story is a fictional work created for entertainment purposes and to convey meaningful messages about life. The characters and events in the story are not real and are only illustrative. We hope this story will provide you with relaxing moments and deep reflections.